We good?
We're good, sir. We're good.
All right. Yeah, great win. I thought the guys played really well from beginning to end. Played very violent, and just really proud of the effort on really all three phases, and thought we went out there and tough place to play, and to give them their worst home loss in school history is says a lot about how the guys played. So very proud of how the coaches prepared, how the kids prepared, and then how we went out and executed. So questions?
3 straight wins for you guys, and I know the last few weeks you talked about when we practice well, it correlates over to the game. Are you seeing that pattern now? Practice has been fantastic, and it's just crossing over to the game itself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about 1-0, but we're going to take all 4 of those in a row. But yeah, I think that the preparation has been great, and I think our guys are going out and they're. If you watch us in practice, we're hitting in practice, and we're going back and forth. It's later in the season, so you got to have some jog through stuff there, just because you're a little short on people, and guys are a little banged up, and some guys can't even really hit during practice. So you got to be smart on how you're practicing. But when we're going very hard. The guys have been really prepared mentally, and I think the thing that we've also done is we've gotten better each day. So Wednesday's been better than Tuesday. Thursday's been better than, even though we're not really hitting, but mentally we're better on Thursday, and then we're even gaining stuff on Friday and able to make some adjustments. And I think that's also helped us make in-game adjustments, which has helped. So that's been a huge thing.
I gotta apologize. That's 14.
Yeah. No, it's all right. It's all right. Want to know. So we, So just, that's. But no, I think that our guys' ability to learn, retain information, understand the game of football has helped us make some in-game adjustments that have really helped us be successful as well.
What makes Coach Skyler a great defensive mind, in your opinion?
He's obviously detail-oriented. He's able to see patterns very well. He has a strong conviction in what he believes, which allows him to call it with conviction. The guys believe in what he's calling because of that. And then, I think also, even though, we have a wide variety of defensive calls, ultimately he and the rest of our defensive staff is still about fundamentals, and that's the key thing, is how focused we are on fundamentals. So I think that's probably the other thing is, yes, we have calls, but our guys ultimately are it's still about, defeating blocks and tackling and being on top of people, eye discipline, those sort of things.
Sticking with the defense, going from arguably their worst game of the year to recently being so dominating, what do you attribute that to?
I mean, we didn't play our best game back then, and I think what I attribute it to is our guys have stayed the course. We didn't panic. We didn't try to change a bunch of things. We didn't go and change the whole scheme. We didn't put in a bunch of new guys. We understood that we didn't play our best game. We didn't coach our best game, and we just kept plugging along and trying to get better each and every week. And we have 3 areas of improvement that we try to have each and every week. And in those 3 areas of improvement, I feel like our guys have really focused on those. They've bought into that, and they've said to themselves, all right, I'm going to get better at these 3 things. Our coaches have bought into that. And I think that's been a huge part of it.
Coach, you talked about health. Running back, I mean, they're taking a pounding every game. Has your approach with the 3 I know Mark High's a little banged up right now, but for the 3 to 4 guys that are all capable, has that helped you stay a little bit more healthy in that position than before?
I believe so. I mean, I think you're going to have multiple running backs. I think if you look, you look in the NFL, you look in college, every team that can run the ball, every team that does have, they've multiple running backs. To have one guy, we just played a team that basically relied on one guy, and he wasn't able to finish our game. right? And so I think that it just becomes one of those things where you're going to need a different guy. You're going to need multiple people to be able to play and be successful. So if you can only, count on one or count on even two, I think you're going to need three or four. And I learned that a long time ago that that's going to be the case when I was coaching running backs, So I think that's, one of the things that I truly, truly believe in is you better have three, if not four, running backs ready to play in the game at all times.
Moving to this week's game, the quarterback for Georgia State seems to be very much a question mark, and you got two very contrasting styles, right? Whether it's Veilleux or Cam Brown. How do you prepare for those two different styles?
Yeah, I mean three quarterbacks have played a lot of reps for them. I don't think it's not about necessarily. There's a couple of different things they do different that you have to be prepared for. I mean, number 11 can still make plays with his feet. He did it in the last game, scrambling around and made some plays, pulled a couple, made some plays. Number 8 can still stand in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. He's done it consistently. In fact, he's really taken care of the football really well. So you have to be ready for their overall scheme and then understand there's maybe one or two different things that you have to be ready for on the other side. And it may be, I don't think it's anything where maybe the kids are going to defend it any different. We just got to play. We got to play defense, not defenses. But it might be a call here or there that we call it to have some adjustment.
Was Christian still at Penn State when you were there? Or?
He got there as I was leaving. Yeah. Yep.
I'm not asking you to break all these guys down, but collectively, your fifth-year seniors, what do they mean to you, and how much of a leap of faith was involved for them given the timing of when they arrived and when you started on the field?
No, it's a huge leap of faith. I mean, they had never seen me coach. They really knew basically nothing about me, that they had no other program to look at to say, okay, this is how it's going to be run. Yeah, I mean, I owe those guys a lot. I have very good relationships with those guys. I mean, we can joke around. They can tell me the truth. I can tell them the truth. I owe, those guys. My family owes those guys. All of our coaches owe those guys a lot. Because not only did they come here at that point, but they stayed. I think that's one of the things that people can look at. A lot of people came here at that point. How many of them are left? And to stay through some of the adversity that we've had and be able to continue to build this thing is something that that's why I want as many fans there as possible. Not only because we've also had guys who chose maybe to come in here during a time when it wasn't necessarily popular, right? And transfer in here and have a lot of belief. And so there's just a lot of people who came here with a lot of faith and belief and have poured their heart and soul into this program. And so I'd love to see all the fans out there to support those guys.
How do you manage the emotions of a day like that with the team?
You guys, I mean, I know how much you hate me to say this, but I do think it goes back to the 1-0 because you want to. Part of the 1-0 is making every game critical, right? Every game's important. I think that's part of the ones that people lose on it is if we treat every game like it's the most important game of our season, it kind of helps to, when you do get an emotional ride one way or the other, it kind of helps to you've been through that before. You've been through emotional games before. And so I think that's a big part of it. Our guys know it's going to be emotional. That I do think it's helpful that in the back of their mind, as much as I preach 1-0, a lot of them are thinking to themselves, well, at least we still have a bowl game to go hang out, But it is going to be emotional their last time playing here in front of the fans and that sort of thing. I think will be huge.
Coach, friend and mentor gets a job in state with Coach Franklin.
Yeah.
Your thoughts when you saw him, take that Virginia Tech job down the road and team is on your schedule next year too.
Yeah, I mean that was the first thought I thought about. It's all right, now I got to play him again. I got to play, somebody that I know again up there. I can't get away from my friends. They keep taking jobs that I have to play them on. For my first thought is I need less friends, which has been probably one of my main thoughts throughout most of my life. I need less friends. I'm sure the 4 friends that I have don't don't agree with me on that. But yeah, I mean, that was my first thought. I was thinking to myself, all right, now we got to play these guys again, and that was going to be my number one thing. I mean, yeah, it's my first thought, and probably the 9 thoughts in between.
There's been speculation that you might go work for him. And how much thought has gone into that?
0. I mean, listen, I mean, I have the utmost respect for Coach Franklin. I have the utmost respect for, Virginia Tech. I have the utmost respect for the program he's going to build there. But I also have a lot of respect for the program I'm building here, for Dr. Hemphill, for Dr. Seelig, for all the players that believe in me, all the coaches that believe in me, and all the fans that continue to show up and, invest in our program both emotionally and, financially. And so, I mean, I think it's funny that, the reality of it is everybody's a reporter now, right? Right? I mean, and you guys know that more than anybody, right? You guys, this used to be a very, it used to be kind of a hard business to get into, right? Now anybody can be a reporter. I mean, anybody can start a website. Anybody can throw out an internet rumor. Anybody can be whatever, and all they have to say is sources say. Well, I mean, their source might be just like a figment of their imagination. Right? I mean, their grandma would be better than most of their sources that they're doing. At least, at least their grandma has the integrity to have to say the truth or whatever. So I think that and what we've done is we've taken the message board culture, and over the last 4 years, that message board culture is now out into the whole world. Right. And I mean, and I think that's the thing that's gotten crazy about this thing. I mean, I know that he came and listen, I know where it came from. I know he was here. I know whatever, but I joke that I don't have very many friends and all that sort of stuff, but I am allowed to have them. I'm allowed to have relationships with people that where I'm friendly with them. I mean, for God's sake, you guys know how I feel about my Saint Bernard, the big one. His family bought my son that dog, right? So one of the things when I go home and I get the most joy is from that family, right? I owe most of my coaching career to Coach Franklin and that family. So of course, when he says, "Hey, do you mind if I come to the game?" I want him at the game, right? Of course I want him there. Just like my family, when we had a bye week a couple years ago, went to visit their family at Penn State and watch the game. I mean, so I like I said, I know I'm not allowed to have some things, but I still think I'm probably allowed to have friends. That's probably still one of the things I get.
Coach, may I clarify something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So what you're saying is you're not interested in any job there next year, and you're committed to Old Dominion to be back next year.
I'm saying that these rumors that Coach Franklin and I have talked about this job and whatever that's not true. And Coach Franklin has a job to put together. I have a job to coach this team. I have every intention in the world of being the head coach of this team for as long as Dr. Seelig and Dr. Hemphill will let me. Listen, I love this place. My family loves this place. I mean, how many coaches do you think in the country can walk to work and not get bothered? I mean, how many coaches do you think can do that? 5, maybe less. Probably less than that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I have an incredibly rare job. And I'm smart enough and intelligent enough to understand that.
When you look back on the, to go back to the fifth-year seniors, you look back on the past 5 seasons, this one included, it's kind of been a little bit of everything, really. Winning early, winning late, losing early, losing late, losing in the middle. What does that say about this group of seniors, that they've endured all that, and are they now in the process of turning a corner? Is that something you can't talk about for another 10 years?
I think this is going to be one of those experiences that I hopefully this whole thing, because they have been through a lot, right? They have been. You didn't say winning in the middle in there, but you did throw you threw the last losing in the middle in there. So I'm going to throw winning in the middle in there as well. But like I think this is going to be one of those things that they've been through a lot, and I do think ultimately it is going to help them be more successful in their life, whether that's in football, whether that's in business, whether that's whatever. And I think that it's one of these things that I genuinely think football and most athletics, if not all athletics, I think that's what it breeds. It's why I think that I would love if every single high school student had to compete in something. Like, even if it wasn't athletics, even if it was chess, even if it was debate, even if it was, there's other things I'm forgetting, right? But like, I think that the aspect of competing, and learning how to deal with failure, learning how to deal with success, which is almost just as important, is something that our entire country could probably benefit from.
You kind of touched on it earlier, just about how much you'd like the fan base to show up for the senior Saturday. Can you just sort of reiterate why that's so important to you and your message to the fan base this week, considering it's the season finale, regular season finale?
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing, I've talked about this before, no one wants to hang out with their family again on Saturday, guys. What are we talking about right now? All right? Like, you're there all day Thursday, right? Like Benjamin Franklin said, guest and fish both stink after 2 days, right? Like, so like, let's get out. Let's get out. Let's be at the game, all right? And have some fun. It's a great opportunity to see a bunch of kids who've really invested in this university, have really invested in this program. And I think that, I'd love to see, if you've ever come to a game and enjoyed your experience, come to this one, right? Come back to this one. And let's support these guys, and I think that would be awesome. I think that would be a great send off, but it would also show the country of we're talking about the direction we're moving. Like, it would be another step in a great direction.
Is that a real Ben Franklin quote?
Well, it's in Poor Richard's Almanac, that's Ben Franklin. Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah, and it's not exact. I mean, I paraphrase.
Okay.
I paraphrase, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Yeah.
So what are the plans for Thanksgiving for the team?
Yeah, we practice relatively early. So like the non-travel guys will get out of here after practice on Wednesday, if they want to. If they don't, if they're going to stay, great. Everybody's going to have a place to go. We're going to know, like, the coach's house, other players' house, like wherever. Well, we're going to know where everybody is. And then on Thursday, we'll practice a little bit earlier so we can, because we all know that Thanksgiving dinner is not Thanksgiving dinner unless it's at an unreasonable hour, like 3 o'clock, which, whatever. We've kept that tradition rocking. So it's going to be right around there. I think the main reason why is so you can eat twice. Right? I think that's one of the main reasons, which I respect and I really appreciate. So I think that's going to be the other thing. We'll get out of there, and then on Friday, it's kind of back to normal day on Friday and that sort of thing. So, but Thursday is a little bit different.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Yep.
I thought you were going to quote Kipling for the morning.
Kris, same kind of thing with Steph. You guys are so focused on and locked in and laser focused on the moment. Have you taken some time to reflect on your time here, or does that come after Saturday's game?
I mean, yeah, definitely. As the times and the practices start dwindling down, we definitely, think back on when we first got in here and our plans and ambitions.
What about same kind of thing? You guys are about to go for your 9th win.
Mm-hmm.
Just given the path that it's taken to get to this point, culminating with a winning season like this, and have a shot at 10 wins on the year.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you to culminate like that?
I mean, it means the world. When we first came in as our class, we sat there, and a lot of guys that were from that class not here, but those guys over there were sitting there down with us, and we said we would come here and change this program for the better. Coach Rahne had a plan and everything like that. So, it feels, kind of good that our hard work and efforts somewhat paid off.
Kris, we took a call from Coach Rahne about the quarterback situation at Georgia State, and the two potential starters are very contrasting styles. Mm-hmm. What kind of challenges does that present to you and the defense?
Really just the way we attack. We're always going to be attacking, but just the way we attack. So, for instance, like different styles of play, they attract different styles of attack. So, depending on who they got in the game, we're going to watch film, stay studied up, prepare for both sides.
You talk about attacking. What makes Coach Skyler a great defensive mind, in your opinion, as a player in his system?
To be honest, if you come in with a hard work mentality and, you already got a little edge to you, it's easy to play in his defense, because he's always going to set it up to where it's like your natural abilities can help you make plays.
Is there something like he's ever said in a meeting or he's looked at on film or seen a tendency and you've really thought how impressive that was, schematically, what makes him impressive?
Yeah, definitely. Coach Skyler's more likely one of the smartest guys in the rooms at all time. He knows all different positions across the field, so it's like having a guy lead you that holds that much information. It makes your game a lot better.
How fulfilling is it to have stayed and then put the program where it is right now?
Definitely. It feels great, to be honest. This is exactly what we prayed for. Obviously, we want better wins and big games, stuff like that, but that comes with time, and I really trust these guys. Following after me, they'll get it done.
You guys had to win a bunch of games at the end of the season, your first year to go to a bowl, and then the next year lost a bunch at the end. Mm-hmm. How did you and the guys in your class maintain faith that everything was going to be okay after that?
Once you're in that kind of circumstance a lot, you kind of develop a habit of climbing those type of obstacles. So with the guys that have been here, we're older, we experience a lot. We're able to preach it amongst the young guys and the newcomers, so they can also overcome those obstacles.
I asked Stephon this. What made you want to stay?
Really just the plan we came in here with. Like he said, I'm a loyal guy as well. I talk to Rahne. I look at Rahne as family. I look at all the coaches and staff as family. So it'd be hard for me to leave my family behind.
The defense has gone from maybe the low of the JMU game to being absolutely dominating the last several games. Mm-hmm. What do you attribute that change to?
Really just reobtaining our identity in the way that we play. We had a little scuffle in the middle of the season, and you can't play good teams like that, So we really just re-identified ourselves in the work and practice.
What other options did you have coming out of high school? Where else could you have gone?
To be honest, I really don't even remember, because as soon as I got ODU, I was like, that's where I'm going,
Why? As Ricky said, it had to be a leap of faith to come here. There was no track record or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, I really didn't know much about recruiting or anything like that. I hadn't had anybody before me that had that I knew about it. So, Rahne called me every day. I got a good tell for good people. And I could tell, by the way he was talking to me, he really wanted to help me out. So, gosh, why not?
And he was talking about not really an opportunity, but at least rumors that he might have an opportunity at Virginia Tech. But he said he wants to stay here and see things through. What does that say about him?
That means the world. Rahne cares about his guys, man. He's a guy that's always attentive to where his feet are as well. He has ambitions as well. He wants to make things great as well too. So, really trying to learn from that as well.
Anything else for Kris? All right, thank you, Kris.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Kris. All 11 games this year. Skyler Grant, Mark, you've done so well.
Thanks, man.
Keep going.
Skyler, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, man. Hey, so what a whirlwind, right? have you taken some time to reflect on your time here, or were you waiting until after the season to do that?
Definitely I've, reflected on my time here and, what has come since I've, stepped foot on the campus and everything, but, we had the 1-0 mindset, so a real reflection will come, after the season finish.
You feel like a pretty big building brick to this, just, the way that your career's transpired in terms of the wins and losses on the field and, your opportunities?
Yeah, definitely, if feels good to be a part, really, especially this year, being a part of that O-line and being a part of this whole team and really having a contributing factor. So definitely.
Speaking of just the O-line, can you speak to just the continuity and success, that you're having? I mean, you guys are running it well, you're throwing it, you're giving Colton time. Like, how has that all come together?
Yeah, I really say in the off season, that's when we started building that, through the work that we've, done and put together. Just building a good connection in that O-line room. Really just dedicating it to, our work and, trusting in our coaches and Coach Hutt, doing a great job being the leader of the O-line room.
What are your thoughts on Ricky's desire to stay here and keep going in this program?
Yeah, I mean, I love it, committing here, I knew that's what he was about. So, being also one of the guys that's staying here and committing to the program means a lot. So I say our head coach is doing the same thing for us.
What did you commit to exactly? Because, again, like he said, nobody really knew what they were getting into when they came here at that point.
Definitely. I would say, committing to making a change or something, not really knowing, too much about ODU, but, knowing that I could come here, make a name for myself and, make a change in the program.
How do you manage the emotions of a day like senior day to be able to go out and play and perform your best?
It's a lot of emotions going on, but, senior day, you have your family there, you have your teammates around you, so it's really just kind of like a celebration, and, you just, take in the moment and, do your thing on the field.
What are your plans for Thanksgiving?
Eat a lot of food. Eat a lot of food, spend time with my girlfriend, my lady. Just be around the guys. Pretty much just, relax and, be thankful.
You going to stay here in town or
Yes, sir.
going to a coach's house or something like that?
I'm staying here.
You cooking?
Girlfriend's cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What time's that?
And where's that going to be again?
Anything else for Skyler before David invites himself over to dinner again?
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
Right tackle, Stephon Dubose-Bourne. Mark, you want to start it off with Steph?
Sure, Steph. How we doing today?
Doing good, how are you?
Good, man. Well, hey, so you guys are so locked in, right, on the game, the 1-0 mentality. Have you taken some time to reflect on your time here, or is that one of those things that comes after Saturday's game?
It's so crazy. I was just talking to them about that last night at practice. We came a long way. I felt like we over the 5 years, I'm not saying we single-handedly changed the program, but we went through a lot of changes with a lot of different, cultures here, but we really built this thing from the ground up, and I'm happy where we are.
Well, and along those lines, you guys are going for your 9th win of the season on Saturday.
Yeah.
Given how everything's shaped out so far, you've made some steps, maybe fallen back a little bit, made some, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what a way to go out. What's kind of your thoughts on just the culmination in being able to have this success?
Preparation, hard work. I feel like, going undefeated at home is a big thing. I don't know the last time that's happened. So going out with a bang, and also, doing it with our brothers, just, find a way to make it happen.
Steph, this season, Old Dominion's one of 9 teams to have the same starting offensive line throughout the year. Talk to us about how difficult that is and what an accomplishment that is for you guys.
It's a blessing, and also everybody doing their job as being professional and taking care of their bodies. Getting in early, treatments, tubs, working with the trainers, even working with Snodgrass, working on the nips and bruises. So it's really a blessing to keep playing together.
How much are you just anticipating, the crowd, the energy, the excitement come Saturday? It's the regular season finale. Like kind of Mark was saying, a culmination of that 5th-year senior. Are you going to take a moment to appreciate it on the field?
Yeah, most likely when we get there, before, warm-ups and stuff, walk around, really embrace the moment, be grateful that I made it here, and be grateful that I'm healthy to play all the way through the season.
What did you learn about yourself by staying?
I've always been a loyal guy. even from high school to now, like I always want to, be around the same guy I came here. Like I trust Coach Rahne, I trust all my coaches. I believe in them just as much as they believed in me. So why not stick out with a guy that believed in me? Work hard for him, and look where it got me. We're about to be 9-3.
And even when things were going poorly, you never thought about going somewhere else?
I mean, why go somewhere and take the easy route out? Like, as a man, I feel like you go through things and it helps you become a better man. So I'm grateful that I stayed through the tough times. I feel like I came out better.
Anything else for Steph? All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.